Welcome to a milestone episode of the GrowCast Show. This is episode 50. Hi, I'm Alison Ching and I'm your host for today. With me in the studios is Eckshar from Saviour Consultations. So Eckshar is a psychotherapist, a Reiki teacher, an intuitive healer, and a second practitioner. We're here to learn more about her story and her passion in guiding people to gain a healthy and balanced well-being. Let's dive right in.
Hi, Alison.
Good morning.
Hi.
Yes. So, Eckshar, what does being better than normal mean to you?
Okay, so first of all, let me just say what normal means is it differs from individual. But I'm just going to take it that we have a generalized conception of what normal is. And what better than normal means to me is someone who stands in their own power. So if you are somebody who embrace yourself, and while you're going through the journey of embracing who you are as a person, those life experience will give you a kind of wisdom that will ground you with gratitude. And with that, you learn self-respect. And when you learn who you are and you are humbled by those experiences, you will then be able to respect another individual out there. And that itself will let you know that during this process of self-discovery and respecting yourself and others, you realize that everybody's part of the harmony of the universe. Everybody's part of this world, is part of unity. So by embracing your own true power, you are actually generally helping the world to be a better place.
Very well said. I'm getting a warm feeling in my heart. So what makes you better than normal?
Well, actually, I stopped comparing myself a long time ago with the normal masses. And like I said, for myself, what I consider being better is I always ask myself, what makes me better than my previous self? So there's nothing wrong in being normal, as they're saying. But I think I rather invest my time and energy to compare myself with my previous self. And by doing so, I kind of learn to accept and embrace the fact that I'm okay if I'm not being better than normal. Or sometimes I will be better than normal, or maybe I'm in par with the normal definition of what is out there. But normal definitions constantly change. And so I just focus on being better version of myself. And what I learned throughout my life journey, my spiritual journey is it's kind of a disrespect when you compare yourself with another being. And you're also disrespecting the person because you have your own energy to live up to. That person radiates in another energy. And that's why I felt that just ask yourself, what can you do to make yourself better instead of comparing with the other person?
I'm really curious. So tell us about your original story.
My typical childhood, I'm Singaporean, of course, and I grew up just like in the late 80s, early 90s, but I inherited a family gift that is my spiritual gifts. So growing up, I was what parapsychologists would consider me as an indigo child or an adult. Of course, now I'm an adult, so I'm an indigo adult. And I do have premonitions, clairvoyance, clairaudience kind of abilities. And growing up was a challenge, especially in the Singapore school system, where I'm actually a highly sensitive person, an empath. So I get very easily distracted in school and I get drained energetically. But despite all that, I persevered. I had a goal, I had a dream, and I wanted to pursue that dream. But being in the school system that it is, Singapore school system, I didn't excel well in my academics. So I dropped to EM3, normal tech, went on to doing my ITE and poly and then uni. And from ITE to poly was 7 years of engineering life. And then I went on to do my university studies. And so here I am right now pursuing my dream, one small step at a time.
Right. And what motivated you to take out psychology?
So as I mentioned, I grew up with some spiritual gifts growing up. And what motivated me to take out psychology is my own previous life memories. So I recall some of my previous lifetimes. And at first, growing up, I thought I was crazy. And I went up to my father and I asked, Dad, I think I'm nuts. I don't know how old I was. I thought I was in primary school at that time. And both my parents are from medical line. Okay, so they could have just sent me to a psychiatric assessment and get it done with. But my father was saying that, no, you inherited the family gift. And that kind of spiraled into the journey I wanted to take up psychology, because I know psychology is a study of the human psyche, the human behavior. And I wanted to know if I was crazy or not. So my first choice was archaeology but I didn't know how to become an archaeologist. So my second option was to become a psychologist, and I went on to do my bachelor's degree in psychology.
Wow. Okay. As much as I want to hear more about your memories of your previous life, but for the purpose of today's topic, I want to ask, how do you become a psychotherapist?
Okay, so I didn't mention I did my bachelor's degree in psychology. So while I was waiting for my graduation ceremony, I did my bachelor's in psych at James Cook University, Singapore. So while I was waiting for it, I went through a period of time which now I understood was like an existential crisis period. I went through some sort of depression. And I was asking the question as to why is this happening to me? Why now? What is going on with me? Because I finally achieved my dream of getting into a psych program and I can become a psychologist. And I just couldn't move. I find myself paralyzed each time I want to send out a resume out there. And during that point of time, I felt that I wasn't good enough to step out to the working world to be a research assistant or consider myself psychology major. I felt I lacked certain skills. So I listened to my inner voice, despite what I was going through. And that led me to pick up psychotherapy as the next part because I realized I feared therapeutic practice. I never imagined myself counseling. I never wanted to talk to people. I thought I loved research so much, so I wanted to be behind the scenes. I never wanted to be the one talking to people and hearing them out. But life has a way of redirecting you to your purpose. And I now realize that this is more in line to what I envisioned when I was a kid.
Wow, very impressive. So how did you combine the best of all three modalities to become like a psychotherapist, a counselor, and an energy healer all in one?
So what persuaded me, initially I was interested in combining them. But what really made it happen was my own experience during, I was a class guinea pig when it came to my hypnotherapy module. So I was specialized in 3 modalities during my psychotherapy training. So hypnotherapy was one of them. And in one of the class, the lecturer was like, okay, I need a class guinea pig for regression technique. And during the demonstration, what's supposed to be a demonstration turned out to be a real session for me. And while the session was going, I was conscious about my subconscious thoughts and I was going through the whole process. But what I realized is by the time I was already a Reiki practitioner, level 1 practitioner of Reiki, so I felt the Reiki energy flowing through my palms to my hands was on my thighs, and I felt the Reiki energy going through like a suction. And what happened is while I was under hypnosis and the Reiki flowing through, it enhanced the whole therapeutic experience. So it was intense, but it was very fruitful for me because I got a very deep insight that helped me move forward in my life after that day. And that kind of inspired me to say, I need to combine. Once I mastered both sides, because I was still a trainee at that time for therapy, and I was just a level 1 practitioner for Reiki. So I decided that this is so powerful. This will really help a lot of people who are really stuck. And that's what motivated me to combine my skill set, both talk therapy and energy therapy. And the other one that helped me move along was also Dr. Richard Curtin's book on psychotherapeutic Reiki practice. So he made it possible back in the US, where he combined therapy and Reiki. And it's been done overseas, but here that's what motivated me to combine it.
Yeah, very interesting to hear more about the Reiki. How did your Reiki journey begin?
So it began along the same time when I told you I was going to the depression phase after my graduation. So along with taking up psychotherapy to enhance my skill set to feel better, I also had a calling to Reiki. And there was a day where I was going through epiphany and I had this inner voice that was calling out very loudly. At first, I thought I was hallucinating that say, I'm going to IMH or something. I thought I was losing it. But something told me to trust the inner voice and go with the flow. And I did. And that led me to recall a memory I had during class where one of my lecturer was doing a lecture on how water, Dr. Emoto's water experiment and how when you say certain words to water, the cells change. And she was saying how that influences our body when we are like 70% of water within us. So how that affects the mind body. And at the top right side of the PowerPoint slide, there was a picture of a group of Reiki practitioners channeling Reiki to the bowl of water. And that caught my attention when I was recalling that memory. I didn't know how to spell Reiki. I have no idea what it was. But all I know, when I came out from that moment of the epiphany moment, I went onto my laptop, searched what Reiki hands-on healing, and I found my Reiki Master's website. And immediately, I didn't immediately sign up for a class, but I did go for introduction classes, and that's where it started to go. And to be honest, I actually started out as a skeptic for Reiki. Even when I went for the introduction class, I was like, how is this not a placebo? How is this any different from a typical human touch? Because when somebody touches you, you are bound to feel something. But my experience during that first introduction class, while I was putting my therapist hat on, or psych hat, logical mind on, I remembered sitting in groups after my temporary initiation, and I was able to channel Reiki through my palms. Okay. So while I was asked to send Reiki to somebody that's sitting in front of me, I was like, okay, what's so big deal? And this is coming from someone like me who's already have a spiritual experience, right? I was still very skeptical about it. But what I noticed slowly as the minutes went by is that I've got back problem issues, scoliosis. I can't sit too long. I'll fidget a lot, right? But that time, I noticed I had no pain. And I was like, it can't be a coincidence. Like, really? I got no pain? I can sit up straight, cross-legged on the floor, no cramps? Okay. But the wow factor that led to my journey was when I started to receive Reiki. So we had exchange partners. And when I received Reiki, the person placed her hands here. And I was like, okay, now what? And I felt her energy go through, like a sensation going through, but it wasn't just staying there. I still remember how it was spreading like a tingling sensation across my chest to my arms. And I was like, okay, that's bizarre. Because if somebody touches you, you only feel it there, you won't spread. And that's what, made me curious. And when I opened my eyes, I realized that why is she still there for a long time? Because we have timers. And after every time, you have to change hand positions. But she didn't. And I opened my eyes and realized that actually she was long gone. But the sensation of Reiki was still lingering in my body and flowing through. And that's what led me to I need to know what is this. And that curiosity led me to from being a skeptic to being a Reiki teacher now, that journey.
Wow, okay. Incredible journey. I can understand the skepticism behind it, but I'm also actually getting more curious about Reiki by the minute. What type of clients do you work with for your practice then? Yeah.
Okay, so I work with humans and non-humans. But generally, the type of clients I work with are humans naturally, and they are from age groups between 21 years to those in the 50s. Very rare I had somebody above 50 years old come in. So people from all walks of life, if they feel comfortable working with me, they are all means they can reach out to me. And I usually also work with pet parents and also parents who have children below 14 years old of age.
Okay, so non-humans meaning animals.
Yeah.
So what type of issues do you work with, clients? Yeah, both humans and non-humans.
Yeah, and I just to say why I consider humans and non-humans, because I feel as humans, we are also part of the animal kingdom. But, I know in general public, people just differentiate humans and animals. So the type of issues I work with for humans, let's do that first, is, and non-humans alike, is also stress, anxiety, depression. Animals also go through stress, anxiety, and depression. I also go through existential crisis, or we call it the spiritual emergence as well. And I also help somebody go through pet grief. Okay, so I work with people who are going through pet grief or end of life when it comes to animals who are towards the end of life. Then through Reiki, then I help them deal with that process.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very, very touching. And what do you like about working with humans and animals?
The ability to hold a safe place. Because when I hold a safe place, I'm also given the honor and the privilege to see another living being healing themselves. Because as a therapist, counselor, or whatever roles I play, as a healer, if the overall umbrella is, as a healer, when I am being called to hold a safe place, I'm also facilitating another person to be healthier. And during that time, I'm being honored because that person trusts me. They trust me knowing that I won't hurt them, right? And that person is now, finding themselves, rediscovering themselves. And there's nothing more humbling to see. It's a very humbling experience to see somebody being vulnerable and coming out being stronger, and also embracing the fact that vulnerability is just another way of embracing your strength. It's a superpower that people don't realize that it's an advantage. If you know how vulnerable you are, you also know how you can use it to your advantage and how you can pick up yourself and rediscover yourself. And it's a very humbling experience every time I work with people and animals alike.
Human versus animals. Who do you prefer to work with?
Animals. Even though I was trained professionally to work with humans, I never imagined I will be excited to work with animals more than humans. And that's only because they're so pure. They are so pure in nature. We humans tend to put on a lot of layers of mask, but with animals, even though they do have their share of mask, but nothing as compared to what we put up for. And working with them has been a delight. And I learned so much from them. Not that I never learn anything from our fellow humans, but with animals, they are mastery when it comes to unconditional love. They are masters. They are like, God, I don't know how they do it, when it comes to loyalty, love. And so they are wonderful healers. They are like hidden healers. So I learn a lot from them. So I love working with animals. That's one thing compared to humans. Not that I don't enjoy working with humans.
I imagine you must have some pets, right, at home?
I do.
Yeah. Psychotherapist versus psychologist versus psychiatrist. What's the difference?
Okay, so psychotherapist, let me just start off with that, the title that I carry. So psychotherapy is someone like me who has a background in psychology, but may not necessarily have a master's degree in psychology or a PhD in psychology. Okay, because someone who has a master's and PhD in psychology are what we call the psychologists. And psychotherapists like myself, I do have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I do have a training in psychotherapy skills. So the talk therapy modalities. So I can do counseling work and therapy work for clients who come towards me. For deep-seated issues is where psychotherapist comes in. Okay. Whereas psychologists, as I mentioned earlier, they also have a background in psychology, but unlike therapists, they are with master's or PhD qualification, and they have the power to do diagnosis and assessment. They can also be under research, so they may not necessarily be in therapy skills training, but some psychologists do train in therapy work. So sometimes some psychologists also call themselves psychotherapists, but a psychotherapist can't call themselves a psychologist. So with psychotherapists and psychologists, the thing is we are under the social sector. Okay. Whereas a psychiatrist, he or she is from the medical sector. That means they are registered medical professionals, doctors who are trained in mental health in particular. So as psychiatrists, they will of course be dealing with not just diagnosis, assessments. Some psychiatrists do train in therapeutic methods as well. So they also sometimes call themselves therapists, but they are psychiatric doctors, and they can prescribe medication, psychiatric drugs in particular.
Yeah, I remember the last part, yes. So, okay, we mentioned a bit about psychotherapists, but how does it differ from counseling?
Okay, so counseling and psychotherapy are talk therapists. But counseling is like touch and go kind of thing. That means it's short-term kind of treatment approach. So if say somebody is having day-to-day issues and then just want to have a listening ear, that's where counseling comes into. Whereas psychotherapy is another form of talk therapy, but it addresses long-term kind of things. So it's not as short as counseling sessions. It is longer, and it deals with deep-seated issues of the individual.
I see. And there's another term I heard, like intuitive therapy. So what's that, and what problem does it help with?
Okay, so intuitive therapy basically means the combination of talk and energy therapy. So I'm intuitive. And initially I called it Reiki psychotherapy because I thought I was just combining Reiki and therapy. And over the time, I gained the confidence and the bravery to say, I am intuitive. I am a psychic person. And I realized I can combine my abilities, my spiritual gift with the tools I've learned over the years, my professional tools, that is. So intuitive therapy is a combination of both talk and energy therapy work. And it's kind of like a sub-branch of psychotherapy practice. But unlike traditional therapy, this is where Reiki comes in, or Sakam, or even my own intuitive channeling messages come in while the client's with me. So it's a bit more non-traditional method, but I still keep it within the ethical limits of therapy work.
Understand. We're hearing a lot more terms as this conversation progresses. And what is Usui Reiki healing and who is it for?
Okay, so the word Reiki is a combination of two Japanese words. So Rei meaning universe and Ki meaning life force energy. So universal life force energy. That's the interpretation. Usui Reiki is in particular is talking about the lineage or this particular form of healing modality. So Reiki is Reiki, but Usui Reiki means by Master Usui himself. He's the one who founded Reiki healing method. So hence Usui Reiki. All right. There are so many other types of Reiki out there, like Karuna Reiki, Atlantic Reiki. So each have their own origin, but Reiki energy is the same regardless of what other terms are being used there. So Reiki or Usui Reiki healing is been recognized as a type of biofield therapy in the world of healthcare industry. Okay, especially in overseas, Reiki got its popularity due to cancer research because they noticed that people who are at the end of stage, they go through a lot of severe pain, and they found Reiki kind of helps ease their pain or helps them transition from, the end of life period, helps them through. Reiki has also been known to help people who are withdrawing from drugs, so help them to cope with the symptoms and everything. Reiki has been known to help to reduce their stress and anxiety. So there was a lot of evidence-based research done by it, which is what drawn me to Reiki as well. It's been recognized as an alternative therapy treatment, not a replacement, but a complementary technique to therapy or any other medical modalities. So a lot of people mistaken that it's replaced. No, it complements. It just enhances.
So Reiki does sound like a really powerful tool. And if someone is interested in becoming a Reiki practitioner, what are the next steps?
Okay. So I always tell my potential students or people interested, before you want to become a Reiki practitioner, I suggest you go for a Reiki session healing for yourself, whether it's distance or face-to-face. And you can also go for an introduction Reiki class, or we call it the Reiki shares. In Singapore, we call it the Reiki share events or Reiki identity events. And this will help you to decide whether it's a good fit for you. Because Reiki is a simple yet powerful healing tool to have, okay? And it has been proven to really help people accelerate their own self-healing capabilities. So it's going to be for life. Once you get attuned, it's for life. You'll be channeling Reiki, even if you don't practice it. So it's a big commitment in some sense. So I always encourage people to try out temporary healing like sessions, come for one-to-one sessions. But if you are really sure, then you can sign up for the level 1 Reiki class. Because once you completed your level 1 Reiki, you're certified Reiki practitioner. Yeah.
As you mentioned, right, it's like a big commitment. So do you need to change habits to become a Reiki practitioner?
No, you don't have to change any habits. But the journey itself will help you change. I mean, change is only constant. So you don't have to change the habits, but people who naturally want to heal themselves will find themselves changing for the better. So that's what Reiki can just kind of boost that part of you to help you make choices that are wiser and healthier for your body, mind, and soul.
I see. And let's go back a little to like psychotherapy and counseling too. Like which comes first and when is the right time to seek psychotherapy or counseling?
Okay. So counseling might come first, right? So counseling is, like I said, is short term, right? So if somebody, let's say, have a dilemma and they are kind of stressed out and is clueless about what decisions to make, and also they have already talked to all their family and friends and still no idea what to do, that's where they can come for a counseling session, okay? Especially if they're very emotionally distressed and find that, oh no, it's really impeding on my day-to-day life, then you come in for a counseling session. And if you find that it's even more in-depth assessment needed, then you can sign up for a therapy session. So if you're not sure, just come up for counseling first, especially when you're really emotionally distressed and it's affecting your day-to-day lifestyle. that's where you come in for counseling. And sometimes the counselor, like myself, I can play the two roles as a counselor and as a therapist. So I can gauge whether you need therapeutic kind of approach or just a short-term approach. But for some counselors, they will straight away refer you if you need a much more advanced approach to dealing with your issues. So they will refer you to a psychotherapist who will help you to understand yourself on a deeper level. Yeah, so counseling is more for helping you to manage stuff, but psychotherapy is where you really learn to dig in deep and discover who you really are.
And speaking of that, how do you assess clients to ensure which therapy they're best fit for?
So initially for me, when I work with my clients, I first started off as neutral, person-centered, just hear them out. But I will take note of what is their goal. So if let's say they just want to have a goal where they want to move forward in life, then I will use more of solution kind of orientated, because sometimes people are just stuck. They don't know what to do, even though they have the solutions inside them, but they're clueless. So I will maybe put a bit of solution focused kind of approach to help them seek out the solutions or create some solutions. But if they find themselves, just wanting to reflect upon, then I'll use a bit more mindfulness based, or if they want to change certain habits, then I use a bit more cognitive behavior kind of approach. So based on what my client needs are at that moment. So sometimes they come in first session, say, Eckshar, I want this. But the next session, they might be going through something else. I will change my tack, because I can't always be using one framework. We are human beings. So we will just have to be flexible in using what best suit for my client at that point of time.
Yes, very, very good approach. Yeah. So Eckshar, what inspired you to start Saviour Consultations?
Okay, so what inspired me was my childhood dream. So I always envisioned that one day, I have no entrepreneurial skills, but I always thought of having an organization where I will have multiple services that will benefit everybody. Although it started as a childhood dream, a childhood fantasy, I never imagined to start Saviour Consultation at first. I thought it was a retirement plan. I wanted to just have a job outside as a psychologist, but rejections was the best redirection, I might say. And I started Saviour Consultation with my father. And at that point when I started Saviour, I was only a registered Reiki practitioner, and I was still training as a therapist. So I started it off slowly just with Reiki and free therapy work, and it just went on for 9 years now.
What's the vision and mission of Saviour Consultations?
Okay, so I have a tagline in my company. We call Relax, Heal, Empower. We hold the key to our well-being. So the vision and the mission of Saviour is to continue holding safe places for any earth beings to come, to heal themselves, to discover themselves, and to be a better version of themselves, to be healthier. That's the main aim of Saviour's Consultations.
I assume that a lot of people who come to you may have some issues or suffer from anxiety. So what's the number one suggestion you give to aid someone who has anxiety?
Okay, so when somebody suffers from anxiety or going through a panic attack, the first thing I always tell them is focus on your breathing. Because when you're going through anxiety, what happens is your body is going through a fight or flight mode, which means your limbic system, which is the main reason for everything, is out of whack, right? So when your body is going, Mayday, Mayday, something's going on, no affirmation is going to go on to calm you down. Because your prefrontal cortex, the logical mind, is not in power. It's your primitive mind. So I always say the best way to soothe your limbic system is breathing. 3 deep breaths just to calm your body down so that you can at least regulate yourself enough to take yourself out of the place that caused you anxiety, or at least to the point that it doesn't cause you to have a cardiac arrest. Because some people have comorbid cardiac issues, and if you have extreme anxiety, it can trigger a heart attack for some. And I had clients who say they almost passed out and all that. And I said, during that time, you feel like it, just focus on breathing, calm your breathing, 3 deep breaths, and once you feel better, then do the next section.
Okay, I'm going to remember that. It's very easy, but very also, you need to keep remembering, and I think it would help me in my time of stress. So that brings me to my next question. So what's the number one suggestion you give to help somebody who wants to reduce stress?
So the way to reduce stress is knowing what suits you best. Okay. And the reason why, again, back to the limbic system, the nervous system, these two systems in your body is what gauges the fight or flight freeze mode when you're stressed, whether you need to fly or, run, freeze, or fight back. So when you are stressed and your nervous system is again functioning at the highest score, what I always ask is find ways, okay, that you can, like I suggested the breathing for anxiety, but that may not be for you. So when you're stressed, you got to know what suits your nervous system to calm down, because that will be the best solution for you. And usually in therapy work, I spend a lot of time with my clients to know what triggers your nervous system to go on stress mode. Okay, what triggers it? And most importantly, what can help you soothe it as well to relax your nervous system. These are the two things, actually.
Okay.
So in essence, nervous system regulation is the key to helping you reduce your stress.
What about depression? What's the number one suggestion you give for people with depression?
For depression, honestly, I have a few, but the one that's coming to the top of my mind is watch what you consume.
Okay.
Because most of the time, people don't realize most of the mental health issues stems from the gut. It's the gut health. But also depression is beyond physical chemical imbalance. It's also psychological induced as well. But I always say, if you're depressed, okay, there are a few things you can do, but the number one is try to consume something that will perk your physical energy up, because depressed people are very fatigued. They have low energy drive, right? So try to eat something that will help you perk your body a bit and give you some energy. And then later on, you can cognitively do things that can help you feel a bit better. But baby steps is also key here to dealing with depression.
And what do you think is needed to sustain healthy well-being?
So I would say consumption is key. And when I mean by consumption, it's not about what you eat or what you drink. It's also what you hear, listen to, what you watch, what you expose yourself to in the environment. Because what you consume can either make or break you. So some people, they will eat all the food, but not all the food is healthy for you. Even the so-called healthy foods may not be for you. You know your own body. Some people are allergic to certain things or have, sensitivity issues with certain food products. Especially people with anxiety, I will always say try to cut down caffeine, because that will aggravate your anxiety. So a lot of my clients actually realize that when they lessen their caffeine intake, they improve better. That's also their experiment on their end. So what I always say, be mindful of what you consume, because that can make or break you. And that is all that's needed to help you have a healthy well-being.
Okay. I'm a coffee drinker, just FYI. So it's interesting because I never thought about consuming also in terms of, hearing. So what are the benefits of talk therapy, such as psychotherapy and counseling?
So the benefits of talk therapy is that it gives you a space where you can express yourself safely. It also allows you to discover yourself as who you are as a person or who you want to be as a person. It also encourages you to have a listening ear. All people want is somebody for them to listen. Sometimes we, in our personal life, we listen, but we listen to want to answer back. Not everybody listen for the sake of listening and being there. So when they come to talk therapy, you are not just expressing yourself to the other party, but this person is a trained professional. He or she can help you. Like myself, I will help my clients to pick out what key points that they've just said that can help them enhance their goal or whatever they are working on. So talk therapy helps them to deal with their issues in a non-judgmental manner as well.
So also, since you're a Reiki and second practitioner, what are the benefits of seeking energy therapy such as Reiki and second?
So I already mentioned the benefits of talk therapy earlier. So when it comes to energy healing work, in talk therapy, there are times where I realize that clients have trouble expressing themselves because they feel stuck. And in talk therapy, sometimes it takes a lot more to them to unlock that issue. But with energy healing work, it really drives in to help you release those blockages on the energetic body level. So you got the physical body, the energy body. So sometimes you can do all the work on the physical body and the conscious body through talk therapy, but energy therapy helps you to let go of energies or old residues that's in your system that could possibly be holding you back. It can also help you to express. Some people have trouble expressing, so energy healing work will help you to express even better, verbally and non-verbally. It also helps to increase your energy. So people who are depressed, when they feel fatigue, it helps to relieve fatigue. Helps to reduce anxiety because it balances your energy. And it also helps to relieve stress. And on top of it also helps with the aches and pains, the muscle aches and pains. So I know this because physically I had issues, and now it has helped me cope with my pains better. And also with bonding with pets, the bonding, not just with pets, with your loved ones, that creates a nice energetic bond. And with animals, it creates even more enhanced communication with them because they resonate with the energy now. So that's something. And it also helps you to deal with pet grief. Yeah, that's for sure.
Speaking of bonding, right? So as a parent consultant, what is the number one suggestion you have for parents to improve their bond with their children?
I will say walk the talk. At first I thought communication, but I will say walk the talk is part of communication, because a lot of parents will say, yeah, I always tell my children how I love them and all that, but do you show it? How do you express it? Children don't just hear you, they actually observe you more than they listen to you. So when you say, I love you, and then your body language says something else, the children will be like, okay, is that really love? And today we live in a society where children are, constantly being exposed to social media and television, where they kind of show an image of what parental love should be. But in reality doesn't cut it, means that's going to be a problem. So I always encourage parents that walk the talk, really express yourself to your children and say, okay, this is how mommy, daddy shows love. This is my way of showing love. I know TV says something, but this is reality. This is my way. Just clear that out in terms of expression.
Fully agreed. And for you, how do you personally go from stressful to stress-free?
I spend a lot of me time. I always take pride in telling all my clients and my students, to say me time. Me time is a selfless act. A lot of people, especially Singaporeans, we tend to take self-care or me time quite guilty. We think that, when we rest, I must do something, right? But over the years as being a therapist, I've been through my share of burnouts. I still do. I'm human after all. I do have my moments. But what keeps me stress-free is that I do my meditation practice. I still do my Reiki, my second on myself. And on top of that, I go to the gym. So as and whenever I can, if I don't go to the gym, I go for long walks in nature. Especially for people like me who are highly sensitive to energies, nature is the best way for me to ground myself. So I go for long walks and I talk to friends, family. Yeah, so this is how I spend my time. And most importantly, I set boundaries, healthy boundaries.
Yeah, so speaking of boundaries, how do you manage work-life balance, and if there's such a thing?
Okay, so a lot of people's mindset is work-life balance means everything should be 50-50. There's no such thing as that. You can't be equal. Every point of time, you will realize that you need to dedicate more time with your work compared to your personal. So work-life balance is how you define, provided that as long as you're not compromising too much of one time. That means your personal life is not too much compromised. So it's still elevated, but not to the point that's totally low. Yeah. That is how I see it. And for me, I do it in such a way when it came to work. I was doing some mistakes in the past where I was putting myself available all the time. But over the years, I learned that I need to set boundaries. And I put it in such a way that when it comes to work, my work phone is on. Once work hours are over, I shut it off. I shut it off. And I always tell my clients, I'm not the emergency contact. I know I'm a therapist. And I always prepare my clients in advance to say, you want to get me, this is my time slot. But if really you can't get me, where are the alternative places you can go before I can get back to you? So that's why some people are worried, how can you as a therapist not, shut off your phone? I say, I need my personal life. That's the only way I can serve my clients better. So setting healthy boundaries is the best way to manage your work-life balance.
Yeah, very well said. And can you explain your unique process before, during, and after a session with a new client?
So my unique process would be before a session. Now I'm thinking that this is after my 15 minutes with my client. So before I start the Eckshar session, I always take my time to ground myself. I think before the show, you notice I was just grounding myself, easing myself. And this allows me to ensure that, okay, I'm putting my ego out of the way. I'm putting myself out of the way, my personal issues. Because when I'm dealing with somebody, I need to be present with the person. So it was a simple exercise, a practice I do. Like I just sit down, meditate for a few seconds, deep breaths, and I start the session with my client. And prior to that already, I would have prepared what to do for my clients, like the process I want to work with. And then during the session, I will just observe my clients, how they are. And based on that, I will cater the sessions to their to what suits them. Right. So if let's say, like I mentioned, I use person-centered approach, but if let's say during the sessions I feel that it's not going anywhere, then I will change my tactics instantly. So I always will prepare beforehand few tactics that might possibly help them. And even in energy healing work, if I feel that my clients halfway through the sessions, they were not feeling comfortable, then I will modify the process to suit them, to make them feel comfortable. And then after the session, the general casework will come in. I'll make sure I do my casework. And after that, I will just ground myself before I step back into my personal life. So I don't take what's work stress, because as an empath, sometimes clients' transference energy gets stuck to us. Sometimes people, without them realizing, they say, oh, the therapist or the healer, she's going to help me take my burden away. And they subconsciously download their stuff to us. And on our energy field, we are getting client stuff. But I'm like, I love working with you, but I don't need this. We are supposed to put in the other side of things. So we as therapists have to make sure we dedicate time to ground ourselves, take care before we step back to personal life.
Yeah, goes back to setting like healthy boundaries.
Healthy boundaries.
So you've spoken a lot about like Reiki, psychotherapy, energy, intuitive healing, and we have learned so much from you from this session today. So how and where can potential clients and students find you?
So they can find me on my official website, SaviourConsultations.com. They can also see my profile at the Usui Reiki Association website, and also the Psychology Today website, or the Association of Psychotherapy and Counseling Singapore website. So, but my main website is Saviour Consultation, and they can directly do a booking with me for a 15 minutes consultation to see what services best suit them.
Okay, that's great. So remember, please visit the website SaviourConsultations.com. So we've come to the end of our show, and thank you, Eckshar, for joining us. We hope to have you in the studio soon. So that's me, Alison Ching, signing off for episode 50 of the GrowCast Show.